I didn't plan to sing this tonight, but maybe it's time, Jungkook whispered, his voice trembling just enough to betray the weight behind his words. The live chat exploded instantly. Army across the globe stared at their screens in shock as Jungkook adjusted the guitar on his lap. This wasn't the usual playful stream, where he joked about food or showed snippets of workouts. Tonight, the air felt heavier. Jungkook's eyes lingered on the camera, almost as if searching for someone who wasn't there. And with a deep inhale, he struck the first chord. The melody was soft, haunting, yet filled with an ache that Army couldn't quite name. No title, no announcement, just a raw outpouring of something deeply personal. The comments flooded in. What is this song? Why does it sound like he's confessing? Who is this for? Halfway through the song, the lyrics spilled like a confession hidden for too long. Words about waiting, about nights spent in silence, about a voice that made the world less lonely. Army froze when Jungkook suddenly murmured between verses, "This is for someone who probably won't ever hear it the way I mean it." Within seconds, speculation spiraled. Some fans swore the song was meant for Army. Others whispered another name, Taehyung. The way Jungkook lingered on certain phrases about laughter and empty hallways, about missing someone who stood right beside him, felt too specific, too intimate. In the silence after the last chord, Jungkook closed his eyes. He didn't smile, didn't explain. He simply whispered, "That's enough," and ended the stream abruptly. The internet detonated. Hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag Jungkook Untitled Song, hashtag #4taehyung, hashtag JK Confession. Clips of the stream spread across every platform. Army dissected every lyric, connecting them to moments only true fans would remember. Backstage laughs, glances exchanged during performances, private stories Jungkook once hinted at. Meanwhile, in the quiet of a different room, Taehyung sat alone with his phone glowing faintly in his hand. Notifications buzzed endlessly, but his eyes stayed fixed on the replay of Jungkook's stream. His expression unreadable, his fingers tightened around the screen as the final line echoed again, "This is for someone who probably won't ever hear it the way I mean it." The weight of those words hung in the air, heavier than silence, impossible to ignore. In the world of BTS, where every gesture becomes history and every word carries 1,000 meanings, Jungkook's Untitled Song during a late-night livestream shocked ARMY to their core. What seemed like a casual moment quickly spiraled into one of the most emotional and controversial revelations in fandom memory. The song was raw, poetic, and filled with imagery that hinted at unspoken love. ARMY began piecing together fragments of Jungkook's words with memories of his bond with Taehyung. The intimate lyrics about laughter, about distance despite closeness, about the ache of holding back, set social media ablaze. Fans debated endlessly. Was this truly a hidden love letter? Or just a coincidence that mirrored the closeness between the two? Every clip was replayed, slowed down, analyzed. Even Jungkook's silence after finishing the song was taken as evidence of something unsaid. The controversy deepened when Taehyung was spotted online quietly liking and unliking fan posts discussing the song. Speculation soared higher. Was this confirmation, or just another layer of mystery? The Untitled Song became more than just a melody. It was a cultural moment, a confession without a name, a story written between the lines of music. Whether it was for ARMY, for Taehyung, or for someone only Jungkook knew, the performance left the world holding its breath. One thing was undeniable. The bond between Jungkook and Taehyung, already cherished by millions, had just been etched into history with a song that may never have a title, but will never be forgotten. "You shouldn't have done that, Jungkook." The voice was low, sharp, and cut through the silence of the empty practice room. Jungkook jerked his head up, startled. He hadn't even noticed Taehyung enter. The door clicked shut behind him, locking the world out and leaving just the two of them in a space suddenly too small for the storm brewing inside. Jungkook's fingers tightened on the neck of his guitar. Done what? His voice was defensive, though his chest rose and fell quickly. Taehyung crossed the room slowly, each step deliberate, his gaze never wavering. That song, he said simply. You knew what it would do. You knew what they'd say. Jungkook's throat felt dry. He had expected backlash, had expected confusion from ARMY, maybe even from the company, but not this, not Taehyung's voice carrying disappointment like a blade. I didn't, he hesitated, then pushed back, frustration leaking through. I didn't mean for it to explode like that. Taehyung leaned against the mirrored wall, arms crossed. His reflection stared back at Jungkook, a double dose of disapproval. You said it was for someone who wouldn't hear it the way you meant it. Do you realize what that sounds like? Do you realize what they are saying now? The word stung. Jungkook exhaled sharply. I didn't write that for ARMY. You know that. Silence fell. Heavy. Charged. The hum of the fluorescent light above was the only sound between them. Taehyung's jaw tightened. Then who was it for? The question was a challenge, a demand, and yet underneath it, there was a flicker of something else. A tremor. Almost fear. Jungkook set the guitar down with a thud, his hands shaking now. He didn't answer immediately. His heart pounded, echoing in his ears, drowning out reason. He wanted to tell the truth, to rip the words from his chest and let them crash against Taehyung's calm facade. But the risk was unbearable. Why do you even care? Jungkook snapped instead. You think I don't notice? The way you act like none of this matters? Like I'm the only one carrying this weight? Taehyung's eyes narrowed, his voice dangerously soft. Don't twist this on me, Jungkook. You think you're the only one who feels trapped? You think you're the only one who can't breathe? The air cracked between them. Jungkook stepped closer, fists clenched at his sides. Then say it. Say what you're so afraid of. Stop looking at me like that and pretending it's nothing. For the first time, Taehyung faltered. His lips parted but no words came out. His eyes flickered with emotions he had locked away for too long. Frustration, longing, fear. Something deeper that both of them had been running from. Jungkook's voice broke, quiet but cutting. The song was for you. It's always been for you. The confession hung in the air like a bomb dropped between them. Neither moved, neither breathed. Taehyung's hand twitched, as if he wanted to reach out but didn't dare. His voice came out strained, almost broken. You don't know what you've just done. Jungkook took another step, so close now that Taehyung could feel the tremor in his breath. Then tell me what I've done. Tell me this doesn't mean anything to you. Look me in the eye and lie to me. But Taehyung couldn't. His silence said everything, and it was louder than any confession could ever be.
The next morning, the company meeting room was suffocating. The blinds were drawn, the air tense, and every phone screen on the table glowed with headlines. Jungkook's Untitled Song, Hidden Confession? Fans believe lyrics point to Taehyung. BTS member sparks speculation with emotional live stream. The managers sat stiff, their voices sharp as knives. Do you have any idea what you've done, Jungkook? One demanded, slamming his palm on the table. The internet is tearing itself apart. Rumors are spinning faster than we can control. Jungkook didn't flinch. His jaw was tight, eyes fixed on the table. I sang a song. That's all. That's not all and you know it, another voice snapped. The lyrics, the way you phrased it, the timing. Do you understand how reckless that was? The room grew hotter with every accusation, but Jungkook stayed silent. He could feel Taehyung's presence at the far end of the table, quiet but burning, as though every word cut through him too. Finally, one of the senior staff leaned forward. "We can't let this spiral further. We'll release a statement. We'll say the song was for ARMY, nothing more." Jungkook's head shot up. His voice cracked with defiance. "It wasn't for ARMY." The room froze. Every eye turned to him. A silence thick enough to choke filled the space. Taehyung shifted in his chair, his fingers gripping the armrest, but he didn't speak. "Not yet. You will not repeat that," the manager hissed. "Do you understand? Whatever your personal inspirations were, they stay buried. This group survives because we control the narrative. You break that and you break everything." Jungkook's chest heaved, but he bit down hard on the words clawing at his throat. He wanted to scream, to tell them all that he was done pretending, that his feelings weren't a liability but the only thing real in a world built on image. Instead, he forced his hands into fists under the table, nails digging into his palms until it hurt enough to hold back the outburst. The meeting ended with orders: silence, damage control, denial. Everyone filed out slowly, the atmosphere poisoned with tension. When the door finally closed behind the last manager, Jungkook remained in his chair, staring blankly at the wall. He didn't notice Taehyung linger until the scrape of a chair broke the silence. "Why didn't you just agree?" Taehyung asked softly. Jungkook turned, his eyes dark, exhausted. "Because I'm tired of lying." Taehyung stepped closer, his voice rising. "Do you think I'm not tired? Do you think I don't want to?" He cut himself off, teeth sinking into his lip. Jungkook stood, closing the distance between them, the tension sparking like live wire. "Then say it, Tae. For once in your life, say it out loud. Don't leave me drowning alone while you hide behind silence." Taehyung's breath hitched, his shoulders rigid. "If I say it, Jungkook, everything changes. There's no going back. Do you understand that?" "I understand," Jungkook said, his voice shaking but firm. "But I'd rather burn everything down than keep pretending we're nothing." For a moment, the world held its breath. Taehyung's eyes glistened with unspoken words, his body taut with the war between fear and desire. He reached out, fingers hovering inches from Jungkook's arm before retreating again as if the touch might destroy them both. Then, barely audible, he whispered, "You don't know how much I want to." The words lingered between them, fragile and dangerous, like glass about to shatter. The dorm hallway was silent, the kind of silence that carried secrets. Everyone else was asleep, but Jungkook's footsteps echoed as he stopped outside Taehyung's door. For a moment he hesitated, fist hovering in the air. Then, without giving himself time to reconsider, he knocked sharp, quick, urgent. The door opened almost instantly, as though Taehyung had been waiting. His hair was messy, his oversized shirt hanging loosely, but his eyes were wide awake. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered, though he stepped aside anyway. Jungkook slipped in, shutting the door behind him. The room was dim, shadows stretching across the walls, a faint scent of cologne clinging to the air. They stood facing each other, the unspoken words from the meeting earlier still pulsing between them. "I can't do this anymore," Jungkook said, his voice low but trembling. Taehyung's throat bobbed. "Do what?" "Pretend. Stay quiet. Watch you act like none of this matters while I'm tearing apart inside." Jungkook's hands shook as he ran them through his hair. "I meant every word of that song. And you heard it. You know it was for you." Taehyung's expression tightened. He walked closer, so close that Jungkook could feel the heat radiating from him. "Do you think it's easy for me? To watch you risk everything with one song? Do you think I don't lie awake at night, wanting to tell the world you're mine?" The words hit Jungkook like fire. His breath caught. "Then why don't you?" Taehyung's jaw clenched. "Because if I do, it destroys us. It destroys BTS. Everything we built. Everything ARMY believes in." His voice cracked, raw with the weight of it. "I can't be selfish. Not with millions of eyes on us." Jungkook stepped forward, eliminating the last sliver of distance between them. His hand lifted, hesitated, then pressed against Taehyung's chest, feeling the rapid thud of his heart. "But what about me? What about us? How long are we supposed to live like ghosts of ourselves?" Taehyung's breath shuddered. He gripped Jungkook's wrist, not to push it away but to hold it there. You think I don't want you? His voice dropped rough, desperate. Every time you laugh, every time you look at me too long, I want to forget the world exists. But I'm scared, Jungkook. I'm terrified. Then be terrified with me, Jungkook shot back. His eyes blazed with defiance and longing. I don't care about the world if I can't have you in it the way I need to. The room pulsed with the weight of their confession, a dangerous intimacy neither could retreat from. For the first time, Taehyung didn't pull back. His fingers trailed down Jungkook's arm, lingering, trembling, as if testing how far they could go before the world outside shattered. I don't know how to stop, Taehyung whispered. Then don't, Jungkook breathed. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was electric, filled with everything they had buried for years. Words unsaid became a current running between them, pulling them closer, daring them to cross the line they both feared and craved. The knock on the door shattered it. Both froze, every muscle tense, the fragile moment ripped apart in an instant. A voice outside called softly, "Tae? You awake?" Taehyung's eyes widened, panic flashing through them. He released Jungkook's wrist and stepped back, retreating into the safety of distance. Jungkook's chest heaved, his fists clenched at his sides, fury and heartbreak twisting together. Without a word, he slipped out the window into the night air, leaving Taehyung standing alone in the half-light, his hand still trembling with the ghost of Jungkook's touch. The morning headlines were merciless. Jungkook's Untitled Song sparked speculation. Fans link lyrics to Taehyung. Company denies rumors, but army isn't convinced. Secret bond? Social media explodes with #taekook trend. Everywhere Jungkook looked, his phone, the television in the lobby, even the chatter of staff in the hallways, the world was talking about him. About them. In the company office, the managers raged. "You've lost control of the narrative," one snapped. "Every glance, every word you and Taehyung exchange is being dissected. We cannot have this. You'll keep your distance in public." "That's final." Jungkook bit his tongue, fists clenched under the table. He wanted to argue, but he knew it would be useless. He nodded stiffly, eyes burning. But later that night, rules meant nothing. Taehyung texted him a single word, "Rooftop." Jungkook didn't hesitate. The rooftop was quiet, the city lights stretching endlessly below. Taehyung stood near the edge, hands in his pockets, the wind tugging at his shirt. When Jungkook approached, Taehyung didn't turn around immediately. His voice carried over the hum of the city. "They're telling us to stay away from each other." Jungkook's laugh was bitter. "Like that's even possible." Finally, Taehyung faced him. His eyes held a storm, conflict warring with desire. "You don't get it. They'll twist everything. One wrong move and I don't care." Jungkook cut him off, stepping closer. "Let them twist it. Let them talk. They already are. What difference does it make if we hide?" "Everything," Taehyung snapped. His voice broke with frustration. "It makes everything different. I can't risk BTS. I can't risk ARMY." Jungkook's voice rose, sharp and raw. "And what about me? What about us? Do we not matter compared to an image they built for us?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Taehyung's fists tightened at his sides, his body rigid with restraint. Then, in a voice barely audible, he said, "You matter more than anything. That's the problem." The confession hit Jungkook like a blow to the chest. He stepped forward until only inches separated them. "Then stop pushing me away. Stop pretending you don't feel the same every time I look at you." Taehyung's breath trembled, his control slipping. For a moment, he let it break. His hand reached up, brushing against Jungkook's shoulder, lingering too long, too dangerously. "You'll be the end of me," Taehyung whispered. Jungkook's reply was immediate, fierce. "Or maybe I'll be the beginning." The rooftop buzzed with the intensity of a secret too big to contain. Below them, the world speculated, debated, obsessed. But up here, under the cover of night, the truth pressed between them, reckless, undeniable, impossible to bury. Neither spoke again, but neither moved apart. The silence was enough, a fragile truce in the war between duty and desire. Down below, social media burned brighter. Fans had spotted them leaving the building minutes apart, their photos trending with captions like, "Same place, same time?" and "Something is happening." The company scrambled to shut it down, but the fire was spreading and Jungkook knew. It was only a matter of time before they either surrendered to the world or to each other. The hotel room door clicked shut behind them, muffling the noise of the bustling tour staff outside. Jungkook leaned against the wall, chest heaving, adrenaline still pulsing from the concert. Sweat clung to his skin, the echoes of fans' screams still ringing in his ears. But none of that mattered. Not now, not when Taehyung was standing across the room, staring at him with an intensity that burned hotter than the stage lights ever could. Neither spoke at first. The silence was thick, charged, alive with everything they had swallowed down for years. Finally, Jungkook broke it. "Do you know what it feels like?" he began, voice low, rough. "To stand in front of millions of people and still feel invisible, except when I look at you?" Taehyung's jaw tightened. He took a slow step closer. "Don't say things like that." "Why not?" Jungkook snapped, pushing off the wall, his frustration boiling over. "Why can't I? I'm tired of hiding, Tae. Tired of pretending we're just brothers, just members. You think I don't see the way you look at me when you think no one's watching?" Taehyung's lips parted, but the words stuck in his throat. His hands trembled slightly as he clenched them into fists. "Because if we give in to this, everything falls apart. You know it." Jungkook laughed bitterly, stepping forward until they were only a breath apart. "Everything's already falling apart. Haven't you seen it? The fans know. The company knows. We're breaking whether we admit it or not. The only thing keeping me together is you." Taehyung's eyes flickered, torn between fear and desire. "You don't know what you're asking me to risk." Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper, desperate, raw. "Then risk me. Risk us. Just once. For once, don't think about the world. Think about me." The room trembled with the weight of the moment. Taehyung's breath caught as Jungkook's hand rose, hovering near his face, hesitant but aching to close the gap. For a second, it felt like the world outside ceased to exist. No army, no managers, no headlines. Just them. Then Taehyung broke. He grabbed Jungkook by the collar and pulled him forward, their lips crashing together in a kiss that was less tender than it was furious. Years of silence, longing, and repression igniting all at once. It wasn't careful. It wasn't controlled. It was reckless, unrestrained, the kind of kiss that could destroy them both. When they finally tore apart, breathless, Taehyung's forehead rested against Jungkook's, his voice shaking. "We can't do this." Jungkook's hand cupped the back of his neck, firm, refusing to let go. "We already did." The weight of their choice pressed down on them, but neither moved away. They stayed locked in that fragile closeness, knowing there was no going back, no undoing what had just been unleashed. Outside the locked hotel door, the staff's footsteps echoed faintly. The world remained oblivious for now, but Jungkook and Taehyung knew the line had been crossed, and everything would be different from this night forward. The first slip came sooner than either of them expected. A staff member had knocked on Jungkook's hotel door early the next morning, her tone hurried. "We need you in the lobby 5 minutes." Jungkook, still half dazed from the night before, scrambled to pull on a hoodie. He hadn't realized his mistake until she glanced down at the floor near his bed. There, tucked almost carelessly beside his backpack, was Taehyung's silver ring, an accessory every stylist and staff member knew belonged to him. Her eyes flickered, sharp, but she said nothing. Not then. By the time Jungkook reached the lobby, whispers had already begun to swirl. He caught the tail end of a conversation between two coordinators, their voices hushed yet urgent. "Can't be a coincidence. You think it's true? I don't know. But if it is, this will explode." Jungkook's chest tightened. He walked past them without a word, but his heart hammered in his ears. Later that day, in the van, Taehyung slid in beside him. The others chatted idly, but Jungkook leaned closer, voice barely audible. "Someone knows." Taehyung's head snapped toward him. "What do you mean?" "The ring. You left it last night. A staff saw it in my room." Taehyung's jaw clenched, his hand tightening into a fist against his knee. "Damn it." Jungkook's voice cracked with panic. "What if they tell management? What if this gets out?" For a moment, Taehyung stayed silent, staring out the window, the city rushing by in a blur. Then he muttered, "Then we're finished." The words sliced through Jungkook, colder than any threat the company had thrown his way. Don't say that. I have to, Taehyung whispered harshly. Because if this leaks, we don't just lose us, we lose everything. Our careers, the members' trust, Army's faith. Jungkook turned, his eyes burning. So what are you saying? That last night meant nothing. Taehyung's gaze darted to him, filled with conflict. Don't twist this. You know what it meant. That's the problem. The van jolted as it stopped at a traffic light, throwing them slightly closer. Neither pulled away. Their breaths collided, heavy with words unsaid, while the chatter of the other members filled the background like static. Finally, Taehyung murmured, almost too softly to hear. We'll have to be smarter. No more mistakes. No more traces. Jungkook swallowed hard, anger and longing clashing in his chest. I don't want to hide from you. You'll have to, Taehyung replied firmly, though his hand, hidden between them, brushed against Jungkook's for the briefest, most dangerous second. The moment passed quickly, but Jungkook felt it like fire. The conference room door shut with a dull click, and suddenly the air felt suffocating. Jungkook sat stiffly at the long glass table, his hoodie pulled low over his face, while Taehyung leaned back in his chair, outwardly calm but with his hand curled tightly into a fist under the table. Across from them sat their manager, flanked by two senior staff. A phone was placed between them, the screen still lit with a paused video. Jungkook's stomach dropped. He didn't need to see the thumbnail to know what it was. Grainy footage of Taehyung slipping into his hotel room past midnight. The manager spoke first, his voice flat. Do either of you want to explain this? Silence. Jungkook's throat burned with words he couldn't say. Taehyung kept his eyes fixed on the table, his jaw set like stone. One of the staff leaned forward, her tone sharp. We've overlooked a lot. But this? You two are playing with fire. Do you understand what happens if this gets out? Finally, Taehyung lifted his head, his voice steady. Delete it. The manager's expression hardened. This isn't just about deleting. It's about trust. It's about the group. You think the company will risk everything because you two can't control yourselves. Jungkook's fists trembled against his knees. He wanted to shout, to defend what they had, but the weight of reality pressed down on him like iron chains. If this spread, it wouldn't just be their lives that burned. It would consume everyone they loved. The room fell into a heavy silence until Jungkook finally spoke, his voice raw. It's not what you think. The manager's eyes narrowed. Then what is it? Jungkook hesitated. Taehyung cut in quickly, his tone clipped. It was nothing. Just company between friends. Nothing more. Jungkook's head snapped toward him, betrayal flashing across his face. But Taehyung didn't look at him. He kept his gaze locked on the manager, unflinching, as though he'd rehearsed this lie 1,000 times. The manager studied them for a long moment, then leaned back in his chair. Fine. I'll give you both one warning. 1. Slip again and the company will handle it. Do you understand? Both nodded. It was the only choice. When the meeting ended, they walked out together, the hallway eerily quiet. Jungkook's chest ached with unshed words, but before he could speak, Taehyung grabbed his wrist and pulled him into an empty stairwell. Why did you lie? Jungkook hissed, his voice breaking. Why did you act like I meant nothing? Taehyung's hands pressed against the cold railing, his body shaking with restrained fury. Because if I didn't, you'd be finished. We'd be finished. Do you think I wanted to say that? Do you think it didn't kill me to spit those words out? Jungkook's eyes blurred. Then what's left of us if we can't even tell the truth? Taehyung finally turned, his face twisted with pain. What's left is survival. For now, that has to be enough. The stairwell echoed with silence, their breaths heavy and ragged. And in that silence, Jungkook realized the truth was no longer just between them. It was now a secret fought over, cornered, and one wrong move away from becoming a scandal that would shatter everything. Army timelines exploded with theories, frame-by-frame analyses, and frantic translations. The grainy video, no longer confined to a private device, had found its way into the public, uploaded by an anonymous account that vanished almost instantly after posting. But it was too late, the internet had already seized it. Wait, that's Taehyung, isn't it? One fan wrote, circling the blurred outline of his jacket. And that door, isn't it Jungkook's room? Another added, screenshots piling in like an avalanche. By the time Jungkook saw it, the video already had over 2 million views. His hands shook as he scrolled through the endless comments. Some were defensive, some furious, and some frighteningly close to the truth. That he tossed his phone onto the couch and buried his face in his hands. "It's over," he whispered. The door clicked, and Taehyung walked in. His voice was low, almost a growl. "Don't say that." Jungkook lifted his head, his eyes wild. "They know, Tae. Maybe not all of it, but enough. The company warned us. Do you think they'll protect us now?" Taehyung crossed the room in quick strides, grabbing Jungkook's shoulders. "Look at me. We've survived worse storms. We'll survive this too." Jungkook shoved his hands away, his voice rising. "Worse? Tell me when it's ever been this close, when the whole world is one step away from knowing everything." The tension crackled, hot and unrelenting. For a moment neither spoke, both teetering on the edge of a cliff they couldn't back away from. Then Jungkook's phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Twitter, it was their group chat. "Jinhyung, tell me this isn't real. Namjoon, we need to talk." Now. Jungkook's heart stopped. The other members knew. Taehyung read over his shoulder, his jaw tightening. "We have to face them." Minutes later, they sat in the dorm's living room. Every member gathered. The atmosphere was suffocating. Jin's arms were crossed, his expression sharp with worry. Namjoon leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his tone calm but cold. "Tell us the truth," Namjoon said, "before this gets worse." Jungkook opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His throat closed, his chest constricted. He couldn't. Taehyung, however, spoke with a steady voice. "It's true." Gasps rippled through the room. Yoongi closed his eyes, exhaling heavily. Jimin looked between them, his face pale. Hoseok muttered something under his breath, shaking his head. Namjoon didn't flinch. "Do you understand what this means? For the group? For Army? For everything we've built?" Jungkook finally found his voice, trembling. "We didn't plan this. We didn't ask for it. But I can't." He broke off, unable to finish the sentence. Taehyung's hand brushed briefly against his under the table, unseen by the others. It was the smallest of comforts, but it was enough to steady him. Namjoon's voice softened, but his words carried weight. "Then decide. Either you bury this so deep it never sees the light again, or you risk everything. Our careers, our family, our future. What's it going to be?" The room fell silent, the choice heavier than any stage they had ever stood on. And in that silence, Jungkook realized they were no longer just fighting for love. They were fighting for the survival of everything they had ever known. The live button pulsed red on Jungkook's screen. He sat alone in his room, his phone propped against a simple stand. His heart was a war drum, pounding louder than the silence pressing in from every side. He stared at the screen for a long moment, his reflection pale in the dim light. Millions were waiting. Army, the media, strangers ready to twist his every word. Behind his ribs, chaos screamed. The company's warnings, Namjoon's ultimatum, the brothers he loved, the man he couldn't let go of. With one breath he pressed go live. "Hi, Army." His voice broke slightly, but he didn't let it falter. I know things are crazy right now. You've seen things online. You've heard rumors. And maybe you're waiting for me to deny everything." The comments exploded instantly at "We're here for you. Don't cry, Kookie. Tell us it's not true. Protect Taehyung." Jungkook closed his eyes. His hands clenched against his knees. "But I can't lie to you anymore," he continued, his tone steadier now. "I wrote that song. I wrote it for someone very important to me. And yes, it was for Taehyung." The air shattered. The chat went insane, words blurring too fast to follow. Some begged, some cursed, some simply typed strings of crying emojis. He leaned forward, voice fierce now, every syllable a rebellion. "I don't care if this ends me. I don't care if the company turns its back. What I care about is being honest with myself, with him, and with all of you. Because the truth is, I love him. And I won't hide it anymore." The door behind him creaked open. Taehyung stepped inside, his expression unreadable. Without hesitation, he walked into frame and sat beside Jungkook. Their shoulders brushed. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. "You're not alone," Taehyung said softly, but loud enough for the mic to catch. "If you fall, I fall too." That was it. The screen exploded with a chaos no one could contain. Hashtags surged across every platform within minutes. Fans sobbed, screamed, fought, defended. News outlets scrambled for headlines. The industry reeled, unprepared for a confession this raw, this public. Back in the room, the two of them stayed still, breathing the same fragile air. Jungkook felt the weight lift, even as a storm larger than anything they'd ever known began to rise outside. For the first time in years, he felt free, and somewhere, buried beneath the noise of the world, was the quiet certainty that whatever came next, love, ruin, or both, they would face it together.